Hello, hello, hello. This is Truth Be Told. This is Dr. Walter Aka, and I have the pleasure, the honor of having student doctor Eli Hilaire on here. Let me just go ahead and say something, man. Look, I've been following this gentleman's journey for a while. You know, pre dental student. You know, when he had the glimmer of dentistry in his eyes, and he was excited about just even getting accepted. He's in Boston University right now. He's, if you follow him on Instagram, which I recommend doing, he definitely kind of puts you through his whole entire lifespan. He goes through everything that he's going through as a dental student. And so for me, I wanted to bring you on so that you could kind of tell us that journey and how it's been. Because, if anybody listens to the podcast, they know that I truly believe that when you graduate, you're not dangerous, but you're also not to that level where I would feel comfortable, right? Having you do a full mouth rehab, right? Dental school teaches you enough so you're not dangerous, right? So I wanted to talk to you to see if you agree with me. If you don't, that's okay. I wouldn't be mad at you. I want to make sure that you can talk to our listeners, the pre-dental students, the dental students who may be able to understand what you're going through. I want to kind of get an idea of everything that goes through, because for us, when patients see us, they think, oh, we're this, above other people, but we're normal people. We go through normal stuff. You were just saying before we started recording how tired you are, you know, and people don't
Yeah.
realize how much effort and energy you put through just trying to get your doctorate. Okay. But let's just start from the beginning, man. Eli, go ahead and just let me know. Just give me your history. Give me your little short, bio of how you got here.
Yeah. So I guess I'll start at like college. I started college at University of Maryland, College Park when I was 17. Really had no idea what I wanted to do, but I knew I was pretty good at math and science. And my parents were kind of just like, you should major in biology and try to be a doctor. So I was like, okay. I was pretty interested in sports, so my first idea was sports doctor or like a sports teams doctor.
Okay.
That's kind of the only thing I wanted to do in medicine. And after a while, I realized that it kind of just wasn't worth all that work you have to go through. In the case of, orthopedic surgery is a very competitive specialty to match in. And I felt like if it came down to me being a third year medical student and still feeling one, unsure about if that was the route I wanted to take, and two, God forbid, if I like didn't match into the specialty I wanted, I'd probably be miserable. Um, and so after college, I was still pre-med, and my grades weren't the best in college. So when I graduated, I knew I needed a gap year, maybe multiple. And my first idea was to start doing research. So I started working at NIH in like a post-bac research program they have there. It gave us a small, I guess you could call it a stipend. I think it was like 30K a year, something around that. And so since that was my first big boy job, I decided my first investment would be to go back and get braces for the second time. Um,
Okay.
so I had like kind of a crazy, not really that crazy, but like um my braces journey wasn't the easiest. Like I had a big gap when I was younger. I had braces in middle school. When I got my braces off, I told my orthodontist like I didn't think my retainer was working, and then my orthodontist not recommended, but basically said you need a frenectomy, and obviously I didn't know what that was. But after doing some research, I figured out what happened, and then later on in life, I started to think, I don't know if this guy was that competent if it took him that long to tell me that I needed a frenectomy, but that's neither here or there. When I decided to go back and get braces, I went to the same office, but it was a new orthodontist working there. She was the first Black healthcare provider I had in my entire life. She's a Howard graduate, and she kind of just changed my whole mind about like dentistry, and it just got me intrigued. It just allowed me to open my mind and explore other routes, considering I had already graduated with this biology degree. I'm in the midst of trying to figure out what I'm going to do. I think when I got my braces, I was already studying for the MCAT. So I was just kind of like in this random, like, I forget the word I'm looking for, but it's just kind of like a limbo, not knowing what I was really going to do. When I got
Let
my
me
braces off,
let me stop you right now, Eli, real quick. So you talked about not having the best grades, right?
mhm,
There's two questions I have for that. Is one, why didn't you just give up? I mean, you didn't have the best grade, right? Anytime you talk to anybody, they'll tell you, "Oh, you need to have a 3.9 and this perfect score on the MCATs or this perfect score on the DATs." And so, why didn't you just give up? I mean, that would have been the easy way to go. Just stick with NIH. I mean, researchers do an incredible job.
yeah, I think number one, I'm the kind of person that like when I put out in the atmosphere that I'm going to do something, then like there's no turning back after that. Like, especially if other people know, like, if someone in college knew that I was majoring in biology and I wanted to be a doctor, now I got to be a doctor because I'm a man of my word, and that's it. That's
But
literally
did
it.
did anybody tell you that you couldn't do it
Oh,
with
of
your
course.
grades?
I
With your
mean,
grades?
yeah. I mean, when I first started dental school, I actually posted a screenshot of an email, like the first post that I made when I got my official school scrubs. I took a picture in front of the sign, the school sign, and I posted a screenshot from one of my professors sophomore year of college. So I had asked this professor to write me a letter of recommendation for what's now known as SHPEP. When I did, it was called SMDP, but it's essentially a summer enrichment program for pre-meds and pre-dents that are minorities. And so I asked him to write me a letter of recommendation. I took him for a science class and I got a B plus in this class. Like I said, my grades weren't great. I think at this time I had a 2.9 overall GPA. And so, yeah, I mean, I asked him to write that letter of recommendation. He basically responded to me like, I don't know what you're doing in like college right now, but you should be seriously concerned about your grades. And if looking at your grades, my concern is whether you'd ever get into med school. And I was like, okay, well, I mean, I didn't really ask you that. I just asked you to write a letter of recommendation for a summer program, but it's cool. I'm gonna get it either way. Just move around and I'll find someone else. That's what I did. And I ended up doing the summer program, and after that, it was kind of just like I'll prove him wrong. I mean, I never forgot about it, but I knew he wasn't the person that's going to determine whether or not I get into professional school. He never did it. He wasn't a doctor, so I mean, who is he to even tell me what I can or can't do? So
Eli, I love it. You know why I say that? Because the same thing happened to me. I went to go when I was applying for dental school. I asked one of the professors to write me a letter, and they said the same thing. They were like, "Oh, your grades aren't that good. I would highly recommend you think about something else." And I said, "Okay, well, I'll just do it myself." So I went around, found another professor that would do it, and like you said, my grandmother always told me, "No one can ever tell you what you can and can't do. It's up to you to decide what you can and can't do. And so that was something that motivated me for the longest time. And I wish I actually had that letter that lady wrote to me. And it was I went to University of Pittsburgh, so it was it was the board that would write, the board that would write the
yeah,
letter for
yeah, the
everybody. Yeah,
committee
they
letter.
basically, yeah, the committee, they said, nope, we're not doing it for you. And I wish I would have had that letter. I mean, how good did it feel whenever you got into dental school and you had that letter and you were able to compare the two and say, I've done it. Despite the naysayer, I did it. How did that feel, man?
Honestly, it felt great, but to be completely honest, it kind of slipped my mind. Like it wasn't really at the forefront of my mind until I took that picture and I was like, I want to inspire people with this post. So I'm just going to search for my email because I know he's not the only one. It's not going to be hard to find one that said that I couldn't do it. So I just went and looked and he was the one I came across and I was like, oh yeah, because he was the first. I will say he was the first, but he wasn't the only one.
Okay.
So I was like, oh yeah, this is a good one right here, especially
Well,
because he laid it out just like that in the email. So
wow. So let me ask you something. You said something else too that was very intriguing. You told me that, you saw black orthodontists and that motivated you to start thinking that maybe dental was the path that you want to go on.
mm.
How important do you think it is to have representation? Because some people say, "Oh, why do you need representation? If you want to do something, you're going to do it despite people's skin color." Da, 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 da. And to be again, this is truth be told. So let's be real honest. Representation matters from a scale of 1 to 10. How much does representation matter when it comes to somebody like yourself looking and saying, "Can I be in this profession?"
40.
40.
It
There it
breaks the
is.
scale. I mean, like I started clinic and dental school in the beginning of August. So it's been around 2.5 months. I have at least 5 experiences already where I can tell you how seeing someone like me in the clinic has directly impacted somebody's level of care. I mean, just offhand, my school has the DMD program, the 4-year DMD program, as well as an advanced standing program for foreign trained dentists that are coming to the United States to be dentists. And that's a 2-year program. And even one day I was assisting one of them in the clinic. They were explaining treatment to the patient. The patient was a black man. He was around his late 30s, probably. And I could see that he was visibly getting frustrated. You know, things at school move very slow, but also sometimes there's a lapse in communication. People forget when they're talking to patients that they don't speak dental jargon. You can't just throw a bunch of dental terms at a patient and just, you know, this is the vocabulary that runs through your mind because you're in school mode all day. But if you don't know how to turn that off switch, your patients aren't going to be able to relate to you. So honestly, she said a whole bunch of stuff to the patient and walked away. And I could tell the patient was pissed. So I literally just sat down next to him, pulled my mask down, and I said, "Do you want me to re-explain that to you in a way that I know you would understand?" And he was like, "Yeah." I explained it to him just like how I would, just regular, like if I was talking to one of my friends at home, no dental jargon, clear terms. You know, I might have thrown a little slang in there, but you know, I got to relate to my patients. But night and day difference between his response to her and his response to me. And at the end of the day, he left happy, even though he got no work done. He was there for the whole 3 hour appointment and got no work done. He still left satisfied. So that's just one of many experiences that I've had in my brief time in the clinic that goes to show how important it is to have a representation in the dental field.
Let's talk about this as well then. So when we talk about representation, in my class, my dental school class, there was only three of us, three black students. Okay. The year before me, so the people that graduated in 2008 had zero. The year before them, 2007, had four.
Put
So
into
at one
perspective, how many students were in the class, like
beautiful
at your school?
question. Each class had 80 students. So we
Okay.
made up a fraction of a fraction,
Mhm.
and then we knew there was, so within the school, in a 4-year school, so, out of 320 students, we might have made up 8 to 10 black students. And that's the
Mhm.
totality of not including specialists or anything, just the totality, just including the students. And from, first all the way to 4th year. And so, how lonely that could be. And it's kind of the same, right? Whenever you're going through dental school, I'm sorry, whenever you're going through undergrad and you go and you get higher and higher, and, first you start biology, then you get cut off, then you're organic chem, then you're biochem. The higher you go up, the less you see of us, right?
Yeah, man.
So talk about your school, and how many black students you have and how many minorities you have, right? And how that kind of affects basically the environment and the learning.
So my class has the same amount of black students as your class did. Out of 109 we are at now. We started with 4, and the total class was 117. So the numbers haven't changed much from when you were in dental school. I would say we have more at my school in total, but the average is about 5 per class. Every class starts with 117. Um, yeah, same thing. Like I attended a PWI for undergrad, so especially I don't know, maybe it was just my school, but when you're in those pre-med classes. I would just call them pre-med, but they're really like pre-health classes. But when you're in undergrad, you're in those pre-med classes. Not only are you a minority if you're Black, but at least in my school, if you were a male, that was the minority. If there were Black people in your class, if there were 10 Black people in your science class, 8 of them were women. I don't know if it was like that when you were in undergrad, but it was for me, and it was consistent. And as the years went on, I don't even know this guy's name, but I know I would see him in every science class I took, and I know he was the only other Black guy in my class. And even now, I like whenever I'm home, sometimes I'll go to my old barbershop around school, and I'll see him in there. I don't really know what he's up to, but the numbers have always been small. And I feel like that's just, one of the reasons why I continue to share my journey on social media. I really only share a lot on Instagram to kind of direct people to my YouTube channel, but on my YouTube channel, I share everything. I vlog, I do a lot on there. So I think it's important just to put yourself out there, because I know when I was in undergrad, seeing just one other Black male in my class that I may not even get the chance to really sit down and talk to and form a relationship with, it may be easier for me to go online and type in Black dental students, or Black doctor, because that's what I did. And that's how I found Dr. Antonio Webb. And that's basically who was carrying me through my undergrad, as I watched his YouTube videos when I was pre-med. And sometimes it's just that easy, especially now that we're in the generation of social media and the internet, and it's even more prominent after COVID. So I don't know if I
No,
answered your
no, no.
question
That's
or if I
actually
went on a
that.
tangent.
Listen, what you said is exactly correct, right? There isn't a lot of us, and whatever you can do to get the word out, which actually brings me to the next question. You are very active with you have a podcast, you have a YouTube page, you're basically vlogging, you're doing a lot. One, how do you have time? Two, two, what do you hope to get out of doing all that? Because you guys are a whole different breed than when I was a dental student. I mean, when I was a dental student, we barely had Facebook. Right now, you
Yeah.
guys have. I mean, I'm not trying to. You don't have to agree with me. You don't have to agree with me. You could have just kept quiet. But we barely had social media, right? But now you guys are so active. You're so active in with using social media and so forth. So talk about that, and then also talk about the whole brand sponsorship, because I believe you had a sponsorship with that. So how is this looking, and why is this something that I'm seeing a lot more from your generation?
So, oh, that was a long question. I forgot the
Yeah,
beginning. I was
let me
thinking
break
of
it down.
how I was going to
No, no, no.
answer.
So first question is, how do you have time to do the vlog, the YouTube, the podcast, and everything? And then two, your mindset and your generation's mindset is to utilize social media for
Okay,
sponsorship
yeah.
and so forth. So talk about both of
Mhm.
them if you can.
Yeah. So number one, I've been getting that question for like I guess 3 years now, or 2 years since I started dental school. Still don't really have an answer. Honestly, like I just do it. Like I don't really think too much of it. I don't know. I just whenever I'm chilling, I'll just edit. I don't really have to do much extra to record except for go to school and live my life how I regularly would. I just have to bring a camera with me. Sometimes, I'll go above and beyond, and that'll require me to be at school on Saturday, I mean, I was at school both Saturday and Sunday this past weekend, but because I want to create videos, I help out at school. I'm on the admissions team. I do the orientation week, all that stuff. Um, so I just make the time. I mean, there's time to do a lot of stuff, but you have to be very organized, and that's one of my strong suits. I'm organized and I manage my time well. I use a planner like it's a Bible, and that just allows me to do the things that I need to do and stay on top of school. As far as like the goals with the content creation and YouTube. I mean, it's never really been about me, like the sponsorships and stuff. Like that's great, especially when you're in dental school and you don't really have time to work a real job. When you can get some money on the side, that's always great. But I mean, like same thing I mentioned about like how I needed that when I was in undergrad. That's kind of the only thing that really drives me. And I think like when I was applying to dental school, I realized that, one of the reasons that people that look like me may not really be looking into dentistry is because they make finances a big barrier as far as one, schools being 90,000 plus dollars in tuition per year, but two, just the price to apply to dental school is ridiculous. I think I spent $2,500 to apply to 12 schools. I mean, you got the AdSAS fee that's charging you $250 for the first school and $100+ for every school you add on. Then you think that's done, and you got to send each individual school money instead of like the secondary applications like med schools do. They just want your money. They just want some secondary money. So with the YouTube, I decided that whatever money I make from YouTube, I'm going to start a scholarship with. And eventually the goal is to grow, because there is a lot of money on YouTube. The goal is to be able to grow the scholarship to be actually able to pay for someone like a year's tuition of someone's dental schooling. But in last year, in my second year, which was my first, I think I monetized my channel around this time last year in October. So for the application cycle for last year's application cycle, I did like a pre-dental scholarship, and I paid for 5 applications from money from YouTube. So that's kind of just the goal, like just increase, just, do my part in helping increase the representation. And all I got to do is kind of show my face on the internet, and whatever money I get from people supporting me, I just pour it back into my community.
Let me just pause. I gotta sit on that for a little bit. I gotta just sit there because you're very unusual. If I have to be honest, you're very unusual because you're not, because this generation, everybody thinks they're all about themselves. And you said something that I don't think I've ever heard your generation say, which is whatever money I make monetized, right? Because it's about you doing all the hard work from YouTube. You're going to then turn around and give it to the people behind you so that they can actually get to where you are, because you realized, and I 100% agree with you. When I was applying for school, that was the hardest part, was finding money to apply to school, finding money to get to the school. I remember actually I interviewed at BU and I stayed at a hostel, it was almost like before Airbnb. It was basically a room with like 4 bunk beds, and I just slept in there. And I said, okay, cool. I'm gonna go to my, I couldn't afford to get stay at a hotel, and this was the cheapest I could think of. I think it was like $40 a night, and I stayed there, and then I had to walk, to my interview that day, and it was not warm. It was
Yeah,
not warm at
yeah,
BU. I'll be honest with you. And I remember it was around Halloween, and so like people were just all over the place. Harvard and all those that you
yeah.
guys do it big, but
Yeah.
let's talk about that, man. Why are you even taking the time to start a scholarship, to take that money that you made, because you can clearly use it. Let's be real. It's expensive. Dental school is not paying you a lot. Like,
Yeah,
you
no,
are
yeah,
not making it big. And if you are, let me know what you're doing right so that I could pass it along to other students. But
right.
for you to say, hey, I'm going to take that money and I'm going to give it to somebody, or start a scholarship, that's impressive for someone your age and to think that way. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but you're young compared to me, right? So
Yeah.
to think of that is incredible. So what made you want to do that, and why? Why not just wait until you're done with school and then do that?
Um, so I guess two things, like, uh, I was fortunate. I consider myself fortunate. I mean, I got the chance to apply during COVID. I didn't have to pay to fly to interviews. I was getting unemployment checks because I started working at Best Buy a month before they started furloughing us. So I luckily didn't have to scramble for money to apply to dental school, but I also have the awareness to realize that not everyone is as fortunate, and some people might want it more than I did. And why should they be at a disadvantage because of finances when that's already the Black person's disadvantage in America, to be honest? And two, I mean, it's the same reason I started my YouTube channel. When I mean, I'm in a fraternity, and three three people in my chapter that crossed, like, while I was in undergrad, are, one's in his fourth year of dental school, one's a general dentist, and one just finished his endo residency. So I literally had, when I decided I was going to switch from pre-med to pre-dent, I basically had all the steps laid out in front of me, a red carpet rolled out for me to know exactly what to do. I knew what to use to study for the DAT. I luckily had the money to pay for that. I knew what schools I had a better chance at applying to because of whatever resources I could look to find out what their average GPA was or their average DAT that they accepted was. And I had all this information that I was just blessed to receive, but it's out there for everyone to see it. Some people just don't know where to look, and they don't have someone that they could just ring, call up and ask, hey, what should I do about this? So I said, I'm just going to put it out there the same way that I went online and looked for it. It's the same way someone else is going to. And if I can help them find the information that they need, or just give them some moral support, or just someone to look up to when they just think, oh, like my undergrad journey is super hard. I'm tired of studying for Orgo. And then they might go on YouTube and look for a dental school vlog just to see what dental school is like, just to see the light at the end of the tunnel. If you want to consider dental school the light, I'm sure it's an undergrad. Someone thinks it's the light, but
Oh, it is the
it's
light.
not
It
the
is the
light
light.
quite yet.
It's listen,
um,
it's the light because that's how I felt when I was an undergrad student. I would see the dental students in their scrubs, and I would think, "My God, man, they've made it." You know,
yeah,
they're where I want to be. And so by seeing that, you're absolutely correct. That is the light, man. So don't think any different. Can you let us know the name of the YouTube, the vlog, whatever it may be, so people and then
yeah.
repeat it if you have to.
It's student Dr. Eli. That's it. If you type it up, I'll be right there.
Simple, simple.
Yeah.
Dr. Eli. Hey,
I'm still
Eli,
trying
let
to
me
figure
tell
out
let
what
me
I'm gonna do with the name, like when I graduate, because I do plan on, taking it, to
keep
when
it.
I'm a dentist and
Keep it.
doing day in the life of a dentist, because that'll help even more once people start seeing like the dentist life and the what I would consider the light at the end of the tunnel. It would help not only undergrads but current dental students as well. So I got to think of what I'm gonna end up changing it to, but for now it's student
Listen,
doctor.
listen. Student doctor tells you where your origin story was, right? Where your the origin story. So let's continue this path.
Yeah,
It's okay.
maybe just keep it.
Listen, you should. You know what? Being a doctor is overrated. Student doctor
Yeah,
sounds a lot better anyway. you know. Hey, let me ask you
always
this,
a
right? So
student.
you're in school and you get to help out. You're on the admissions board, I believe is what you said, right?
Yeah, it's something like that. I don't
Right.
want to say it's the admissions board, but it's like the admissions team. I'll say that.
Right, right. You get to walk around with the students when they come and tour
Yeah,
the school and
exactly.
so forth, right?
Uh-huh.
Were you asked to do that? And then here's the next question, because I was also on there as well. Um, did it feel more like, okay, well, we have this black student who's excellent. So let's use them, make him the face of the school, so we don't look as bad for minority enrollment and so forth. Is
Right,
that like the vibe that you're getting? And if that's the case, it's okay because that's the vibe I got, but I use that to my advantage.
right. So, I'll say this. I felt like the reason that they asked me is because, number one, because of my YouTube channel. Like, it's no secret to my school or anybody at school that I have a YouTube channel. All the professors know, all the administrations know. They all give me compliments about it, etc. So obviously that, people see me online. A lot of people see me online and come to the school and say, I've watched your videos, or they'll tell whoever they're interviewing with, they'll write me on their application. I mean, I've heard it all. One of the deans at my school, I just saw him on Sunday and he was like, I was just in California and someone brought up your channel to me. So it's not only that, but also after my first year, so like for the class under mine and also the current first years, I served as an orientation ambassador. So I'm like one of the orientation leaders during their orientation week. People see me during their first week of school, which is also helpful because they've already seen me on YouTube or whatever. And that's something I actually had to apply for. But yeah, they asked me to do the admissions thing, and I figured, well, I already do all this other stuff, so that's probably why. And yeah, I mean, out of the admissions team that we have of students, there is I would say there is a disproportionate amount of Black students on the admissions team compared to what the school looks like. So I feel like I mean, we can all say obviously we know why they do that. At least me and
Yeah.
you do.
Well,
Um,
I will say that I think so, almost to try to help them out a little bit, because same thing in Pittsburgh. But to help them out, they're basically saying, hey, let's shine the light on the positive, right? Because I'm sure the schools get so much negativity from, look at your minority enrollment. It's horrible,
mhm,
right? So for them, it's like we need to basically bring forth the good, the people who have made it and are doing well, like yourself.
mhm,
You see, so from their point of view, I can see where they're like, we need to put them in the front, in the forefront.
yeah,
We can't put like, if we had to do ratio, we had to do a percentage ratio. It'll probably be like for every like 10, you know, white, Caucasian, non-Hispanic group or whatever it may be, there would be one Black or one minority, and that just
mhm,
won't look right. So for
yeah,
just the look of it, it's gonna be that way, and it's gonna continue to be that way.
yeah.
But use that to your advantage. Your
Oh
name
yeah.
is out there, your face is out there. I can guarantee you've made some kind of magazine in the school, or
Yep, it's right. Actually, I got about 5 copies of this one right here.
my man.
And the first page I open it up to,
There it is.
and
There it is.
I got it on my wall.
Right.
Um,
It's amazing to me to see the same we'll call it political, well, I'm sorry, we'll call it PR
yeah,
that every school uses. So it's all good. It's all good.
but I
Let's
will
talk.
say
Well, I'm sorry, go
really
ahead.
quick, really quick, I will say I don't completely put the schools at fault.
No.
I used to think that way, but when I started the YouTube channel, one of my very first videos was how I got into dental school with a low GPA. And one of the resources I pointed people to was the ADIA Dental School Explorer, which lets you look at every school's stats. Literally, you get to see the exact average GPA of the last class they accepted, DAT score. You get to see the demographics of who applied. You get to see the demographics of the entire application pool. And what I noticed is the school I think the accepted students, it was somewhere between 3 and 4% Black. But out of the applicants, it's only 5 to 6% Black. So they already have a tiny pool to work with. And when you're talking 5, 6% of what is around like 2,000 applicants, a little more than 2,000, maybe let's say like 3,000 applicants a cycle, you're looking at like 300 Black people. I literally think the number was around 300 in the last cycle that I looked at. Now you take Howard and Meharry, now you're down to 200. Then you take Tufts, you take Maryland. These schools are all way more diverse and way more attractive to someone of our background than a Boston University. That's just honesty. And of course, people are going to go where they see more people that look like them. So what do? You put more people that look like them on these admissions boards when they come to visit the school, etc. Because what else can you do? You're competing with schools that people walk in and the entire student body looks like them. And you're already competing for a small number that I honestly think my school is doing their best. I mean, besides handing out full scholarships, it's hard to compete. It's hard to compete with a school where people walk in and see someone that looks exactly like them everywhere they turn.
Eli, let me ask you this, man. Do you think that dentistry is doing a horrible job of promoting themselves to underserved minority students?
Yes, I think dentistry does a horrible job of promoting themselves in general. And I think that speaks to, I'm sure it was the same for you, but out of 115 people in my class, at least 40 to 50 have a direct relative that's a dentist. And we know why. I mean, like you go on Google and you see the average salary of a dentist is $150,000. And I know people blowing that out the water with their first job out of graduation, no residency. But the people that do know are the people who have a mom, a dad, an uncle, a cousin that's a dentist. and most of them aren't black. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
they're those aren't the black students. Even me, I have a cousin that's a dentist. Granted, I really never talked to her about dentistry until after I switched. So it wasn't that big of an influence, but that even goes to show like I had access to information that people can't just go and find. And dentistry isn't really promoting, oh, we make a lot of money, because it's not necessarily that. But a lot of dentists do make a lot of money, and a lot of dentists are very well off. But people don't know that because they think, oh, 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of dental school to make an average of 150K for the rest of my life. When I mean, I don't know if I've met a dentist that makes that yet, unless
You
they're,
mean
yeah, I don't
to
know.
make more?
Yeah,
Well, it is the average, right? I mean, that
it is
includes
average,
everybody. I
right?
will, I want to ask you, it's so funny that you bring that up because if you look at just what's popping, what's hot, right? If you go on Instagram and you see all the people, right? It's I'm an influencer this, I'm on YouTube and I'm making all this stuff. And then when you actually look at it, they're not making that much compared to dentists. They're probably making less than what dentists are making, right? But there's no dentist that's really like out there. Look at my car, look at my house, look at my. And do you think that might be what like the ADA or other dentists should start doing? Basically, becoming influencers in the sense that they just start putting their money out there, their business out there. Like, would that attract more students to be dentists?
I mean, like, I don't think it's what they should do, but I think it would. I think it would attract people. I think people get online and they see. I mean, one of the first dentists I saw on Instagram was Dr. Daniel Rubenstein. And
Rubenstein, yep.
he's in New
And
York.
NYU, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And I saw him on YouTube and I'm like, oh, he's meeting all these celebrities. He's fixing celebrities smiles. He's hooping at the Chris Brickley gym in New York. He's going to the Knicks games. Like he may not show you what kind of car he drives or what kind of house he lives in, but he's showing you that flashy lifestyle that draws you to the profession. And he's not the only one. I mean, there's plenty out there. There's Dr. Rose down in Dallas. There's a whole bunch that they'll give you a glimpse that'll at least make you curious. And
Okay.
I think that is kind of taking
Maybe
people
that's
a
what you
long way.
should do. Maybe like after you're done, maybe you should start something like that where you basically interview people and show them what the true lifestyle of a dentist really looks like.
Oh, of course, yeah,
Because
definitely.
maybe that might, I mean, you have the young followers that might get them excited about dentistry. But then you also have to be honest and say that dental school, like you said, right? You mentioned how tired you are. So how does a third year, like what does it look like right now for a third year? Like how
Yeah.
exhausted are you right now?
So I mean, like every, every school is different. My
Right,
school, we have clinic in the morning, and then we have class 1 to 5. Every day is basically 8 to 5.
right.
You start the day off seeing a patient, you get a little lunch break, and then you got to sit in class for 4 hours. My school basically mandates attendance for everything, including 4 clinic sessions a week out of the possible like 5, since it's really only the morning session every day. Or my school is open on Saturdays, so there's 2 sessions on Saturdays if you want to do your attendance on the weekend.
So
Um,
you can see patients on Saturday?
yeah,
Okay.
uh,
And you have
that's
faculty there.
contributing to the exhaustion. Yes,
And you have faculty that's there.
yes,
That is, see, it's so different because most people think that dentists don't ever work. You're
yeah,
telling me that you guys have 6 days where you can see patients.
yep,
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
The
So you're
grind
seeing
doesn't stop.
patients. You're seeing patients, and then how many courses, how many credits are you taking? For example, in undergrad, if you were taking 15 credits, that was normal. If you were
Yeah,
taking 18, you were going above and beyond. How many credits are you taking right now?
I don't know the exact number, but it's definitely in the 30s, maybe passing 40.
Okay.
I know, I know. Last year, out the whole year, we took. Oh, I can't even remember. I don't even remember these numbers
And this is a
because
semester.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I
So
mean, like right now, I can tell you the list of classes we're taking just right now in the
it's
first
all good.
semester.
The reason why I wanted to bring up the credit is because a lot of people think, oh, once you make it to your third year, fourth year, you're done. And it's almost like once you get to third and fourth year, not only are you dealing with patients, but you're also dealing with the classes. You have to be competent. So whatever you learn, let's just say you're doing root canals, there's a course on root canals, there's a lab maybe you're taking for root canal, right? It just keeps going. And I want people to
Yeah.
understand what you're going through, not to feel bad for you because you signed up for this. And I'm guessing you can agree on that, right?
Yeah, of course.
Right. But this is what you have to deal with to get to this point. And so I don't want people to think that, yeah, you know what, you are going to earn that 150, 160,000 a year. You're going to
Yeah.
definitely earn it.
Yeah. You're gonna work for it.
Right. So let me ask tuition. This is the one topic that if anybody listens to the podcast, they know I cannot stand dental schools because I feel like they are ripping us off. This dental school, if my investments in stocks gave me the same returns that dental school tuition has gone up, I'd be a billionaire by now. Because literally from when I was a dental student and I was paying, at University of Pittsburgh, I was probably paying like 25 to 30 a year.
Mhm.
Now look at that. You're paying 70 to 80. Some schools are paying 100,000 a year, correct?
Mhm. Just
Talk
for
about
tuition.
tuition. Talk about tuition and how does that affect you? And do you even think about that at all right now?
Um, I do. The tuition at my school when I was a first year was 85,000. It is now up to 91,500 per year. Uh, Tufts down the street, I think they're maybe a little closer to 100K in tuition than we are. Um, I try not to think about it so much. I do have a scholarship through the school, a partial scholarship. So I try not to think about it too much, but I know that when I graduate, I know what the number looks like right now, and it's not pretty, and it's only getting larger. And eventually, this YouTube scholarship might have to go towards some loans. But my thing is, I trust that whatever I do, I won't I won't have to worry about it for too much longer. I've never really I've met plenty of dental students that complain about tuition, but I've never really met dentists that complain about loans being too overwhelming. So I'm kind of riding on that for now, but I do know that one day I'm gonna be I'm gonna be grateful that I was smart about my loans and didn't just take out a whole bunch of money so I could live life and be in dental school. um, because it's super expensive. The cost of living in Boston also is one of the most expensive cities in America. Last time I looked, it was number two after San Francisco, still above New York and still above DC, and I believe it. So yeah, it's a lot. Tuition isn't the only factor.
Do you think
It's a
that
lot.
dental students are smart when it comes to how much money they take out because
No,
they think, hey, I want to live that lifestyle? So do you think that they expand themselves and stretch out like what, if a school says, I'm going to give you 100,000 this year, do they say, sure, I'll take all 100,000 versus saying, how can I take the minimum so I can survive and just live comfortably?
yeah, I think they take it all, and I think part of it may not necessarily be wanting to live a certain lifestyle while being in dental school. Some people just don't want to worry about scraping for penny to penny because they're already stressed enough with dealing with school. Money is another thing that's super stressful, and that might be something they just don't feel like, you know, having the burden of thinking about while they already have all this other stuff on their plate, which I understand, but some people just don't everyone doesn't think about finances the same, so I don't fault anyone for, their mindset behind borrowing money, but it, if you're not smart now, it's gonna bite you in the rear end later, in my opinion.
Do you think that dental schools should teach a course in finance so that we're smarter when we come out?
Of course. Um, Me personally, I I am gonna need a financial advisor 100%. I just think that it, you know, we don't, and it's about the business as well. Like we just don't know enough about money. Most of us come from a math and science background, never really learned anything about business. We come to dental school and they're not really teaching us much more about it. They'll teach you about practice management. They'll make you be an entire dental office while you're in the clinic instead of just the provider. But it's so much learn as you go that you're bound to make mistakes if you're not really taught by someone. And I don't think that dental schools are up to par when it comes to teaching about finances or business practices in general.
When it comes to dental students, one thing that I remember from when I was a student was everybody wanted to specialize, or at least they came in and talking about specializing, right?
Mhm.
How does that look now for you guys? Is it okay to be a general dentist? Or is it I still want to specialize and be an orthodontist, be an oral surgeon, be in this? And do people actually talk about that in dental school?
Most people don't talk about it. I guess maybe just with their close circle. It's still like that taboo thing that people don't like to put in the air, or I don't know. Part of it may be like they don't want people to see them as a gunner. Part of it may be, they just don't want to put it in the air in case it doesn't work out. Um, but I do know a lot of people that came in like, I want to do general dentistry, and that was their mindset, and I don't think that changes. I think if anything, it changes from people coming in saying they want to specialize, and then they say, "Okay, I'm fine with general dentistry," and I think we know why they do that too. But um, honestly, I wouldn't know. I kind of just don't. I only really talk to like my closer friends about that stuff, um, and so yeah, I'm really not sure, but people don't talk about it still, and I'm sure that's how it used to be as well. People, they might say it one time, but they don't want it to be known because if they don't match, they don't want the embarrassment or whatever it might be. So
Yeah, and it's so funny that it's such a secret still. And I mean, I graduated in '09, and I mean, you would have thought that my class was going to kill each other by the time we were done, based on how competitive we were, right?
really,
And everybody wanted to specialize. Everybody wanted to specialize, and I remember I just was like, I just need to get out of this place. This place is ridiculous. These people are nuts,
mm,
because like dental school just breeds so much contempt and just competition with each other, instead of saying
yeah,
you guys are all in this pot of just crap together, just get out.
yeah,
Right, instead it's, oh, let me go ahead and rank you and let me play favors and so forth. And I think there's a lot to do with the faculty. I don't think they help. You know what I
mm,
mean? I don't think older students help, because they have their
mm,
favorites and they'll give this to this person, and then they have their little cliques and groups and stuff. And so I honestly believe if dental students thought, okay, we're in this crap together, let's stay together and get out of this together, whoever's, because in the end, I know a lot of general dentists that actually make more than specialists,
mm,
more, because they found their niche. They're, aesthetic dentists. They do implants. They do. I mean, as a general dentist, I truly believe you could do whatever you want. It just takes a little more education. And one thing that this podcast tries to do is to basically bring that forward and say general dentistry and dentistry in general is what you make of it. I don't know why this message hasn't been brought to dental school or undergrad, but you don't have to
yeah,
specialize to live a good life. Trust me. We had multiple people. Dr. Mack was just on recently, and that man is doing well. He's doing very well in Tampa, and he's an aesthetic dentist. I mean, doing 28, veneers at $3,000-$4,000 each. So he's
mm,
okay. He's gonna be
yeah.
fine. Shout out to Dr. Mack, man. But in all honesty, let me just wrap it up with you by asking you one question. If you had to do this again, if you had to go through this again with what would you do it differently, or would you keep it exactly the same?
That's a really tough question to answer because I I would not change my journey for anything. Um, I do believe I picked the right school for me. I'm 100% happy with my decision in where I went to dental school and my decision to pursue dentistry in general. Um, I I understand that I took a few years off because of me not being as focused as I should have been in undergrad, but I feel like that led me to starting dental school when I was ready or when I was mature enough to handle this kind of workload, this kind of stress, this kind of exhaustion. If there's anything I would change, I still do have that regret in the back of my mind when I sit there and I look at the tuition price and I see 91,500 while my state school costs 26,000. And because I didn't perform the best in undergrad, I was not afforded the opportunity to attend my state school. So maybe if I changed a few things, I would be at University of Maryland and graduating with way less debt than I am. However, I think that it was probably a lot better that I went to Boston University. It's probably a lot better that I left my hometown, not only for school, but just for growth purposes in life. Um, and I can't worry about just the money. Where I mean, I think that I chose the best school for me. So I don't think I would change anything. I wish I could change the price of my tuition though. That's it.
Listen, student Dr. Eli. I mean, honestly, what can I say? But I'm impressed. What can I say? But you're doing the right things, man. And you are meant to be where you're gonna be. It is what it is. You know, you've done well. I've been following your journey, and I can honestly say that the future is bright. I am so negative sometimes when it comes to the future. I'll be the first one to tell you, I am so negative sometimes when it comes to the future. But then I talk to somebody like you. It's almost like whenever you feel just like beaten down and then you go on a mission trip and then you see how people will actually appreciate the work you do when you're outside the US. This allows me to feel good because I've talked to somebody like you who has now said to me, not only are they starting a scholarship, not only are they saying the past is the past, it is what it is, let's just move forward. And that is just wisdom beyond your years. And I definitely appreciate you for that, man. I thank you. And again, student Dr. Eli, just go check him out. I promise you, you would not be disappointed. For any dental students or pre-dents, you need to do this because in the end, you guys are all in this together and motivation has to come from somewhere. Why not coming from Eli, man? Eli,
Yeah,
thank you, brother. I really appreciate you, man.
of course, of course. Glad to speak.
So, thank you for listening to this episode of Truth Be Told. The opinions on this episode are just that, our opinions. Please consult your dental professional before taking any action with your dental health. If you have any questions about anything you heard on this episode, please contact us at Real Dentist with an S. That's REAL Dentist with an S at gmail.com. We would be very happy to return any message that we receive because we love the communication that we have with our listeners.